beat. Good morning, family. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to this time every week. Such a great opportunity to welcome some guests, but mostly to spend some time with you. If you're viewing us today, and obviously you are, or you wouldn't be listening, would you sign in and let us know where you're watching from? That would be great to know. We have people from all over the world that join us, and it's a big, big family. We are metal. We are family. That's the best part, isn't it? So sign in and let us know that you're here. We've got a great show today. Kevin Young is with us, one of my favorite people. And Kevin, of course, the singer for Disciple. And we've been friends for a whole lot of years. And we're going to have a good time, a little trip down memory lane. We've also got Roger Dale Martin as our guest host today, and Roger has some exciting news to tell you concerning Vengeance. And Roger, as you know, is one of the original members of Vengeance, and also the author of this book that we'll talk about as well. And it's called "This Is What Happened," and great book, great read if you haven't read it yet. Emma is here, our good friend from Montana. And Emma, we've been friends for a whole long time, decades, and it's good to see you here today. Appreciate that. She's the mom of the guys from Mangled Carpenter, one of the great bands out today, and appreciate her joining us. Grant is here. Good morning, Mercies, PB from Pennsylvania. Lots of great friends in Pennsylvania. Appreciate you being here with us, Grant. Folks, again, if you're just joining us, let us know where you're watching from. Chris is here from Illinois, and Chris, you were part of our class last night. We did an online Sanctuary Academy class last night, and Chris joined us on that. Topher is his nickname, and always good to have you here, my friend. So, folks, again, let us know where you're watching from. Great show today. Lots and lots and lots of cold weather here today. We've had some snow and it's melting, but slowly because it's not getting above freezing very much. So some of you are God's chosen frozen also around the United States today. Forrest says, "Good morning, Battle family from Lansing, Michigan." And folks, some of our international audience we haven't seen yet, but some of you are watching from, well, Denmark and Kenya and Australia, and we've got some folks that I know are sitting here today. So let us know where you're watching from. That would be awesome. There's Frank. He says shalom and blessings. I like that. I like that. Shalom. So, folks, we have some great guests coming up on this show that I want to talk about. By the way, good morning, David from Virginia. Awesome to have you here. Next week, we have Michael from White Cross here with us. We're going to have a good time with Michael. We've had Rex with us quite a few times, and it's about time we have Michael. A great guy, and you're going to enjoy spending some time with him. I always do. Uh, January 29th, the last Wednesday of the month, Zach from Convictions will be here with us. Looking forward to having him. And of course, we moved Rob Rock from today into February 10th. So he'll be joining us then. Rob is not feeling so well, but man, my good friend Kevin from Disciple is here with us today. So we're happy that he's here, and we'll look forward to having Rob back on at February 10th. So it'll be cool. Well, my illustrious, industrious producer, John, is here. And John, I don't usually tell you to come on screen with me, but I'd like to see you if you're there. And John is the guy that makes all of this happen. There he is. And John, good day to you. You've just moved, and I want you to tell us what you're doing these days. You just took on a new responsibility. Tell us. Your volume isn't on yet, John. Yeah.
I
And
keep
if
myself
you
muted.
there
Sorry.
we
Good morning, everybody. So yeah, it's I've been doing Sanctuary Live for like the last year and a half, I think it's been.
yes.
And I've been privileged enough to be able to move back. The last 5-6 months, I've been here in Tennessee, and just got afforded an opportunity with one of our sanctuary guys, Randy Bowen, aka Lebo.
Yeah.
Him and his wife have a recovery center or a sober living program here in Tennessee called Bethesda House. Bethesda House Ministries. They've been going for the last year. And doing a dynamic job, transitioning people from recovery back into normal, or what as normal can be for, folks. If you're in recovery or have dealt with that, you understand that nothing is really the same, after you've hit rock bottom. And so, but I'm privileged to have what will be by the end of the month. I'll have 7 guys.
Great.
Here at the house. I am a house manager or the house dad, so to speak, at the Sunnyview House here with Bethesda House Ministries. And so, my background's a little more hectic. I'm still not fully unpacked yet. So if it looks a little more chaotic, then I'm normally pretty in place, but still a work in progress.
And John, this is not new for you. You've been working with people in recovery before. You were in another place in Kentucky working with guys that were going through the same things.
Yeah, we're working with men and women. I was working with an organization called Isaiah House Treatment Center. They are one of the larger recovery programs in the country, and was started in 1999. And for 3 years, I got into it because of PR and marketing, being the creative guy. Was doing that for about 3 years. And then we had a change of guard in leadership, and basically PR and marketing got outsourced to another thing. And, after 3 years of championing, in the recovery community, I wanted to continue that path. And so as opposed to finding another job, took a pay cut and worked 3rd shift weekends. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, 12-hour nights. And you start getting into the hearts, and we're talking middle of the night when some of the worst conditions are coming in, and I love championing for people, and so
you're good at that, John. Well, we appreciate what you're doing and appreciate all of your work with this show. It's good to have John here with Sanctuary again. John goes back to almost the beginning of Sanctuary, 1980 what?
87. I was sitting on the basement steps of my 3rd foster family.
Yeah.
And they had bought me, or somehow I acquired a copy of Sacred Warrior Rebellion.
Oh yeah.
And and I'm sitting, sitting on the basement steps, and I could still see it as clear as day, flipping through the CD and seeing this long-haired guy with a denim jacket. And my first introduction to Sanctuary. Utilize the toll-free number 800-548-5222. Doesn't work now.
That's awesome.
But jumped on a payphone every once in a while. And as a matter of fact, your guest, your co-host, I think he's actually somebody that I may have actually talked to. I can't confirm or deny that.
Roger was on the crisis line quite a bit. So
so I think so my connection. I've never shared that with Roger, but a lot of the folks that are involved in Sanctuary now, and if you look at the history of Sanctuary, the bands weren't just bands. During that time, you were doing discipleship. Discipleship's been a part of Sanctuary since day one.
And it's still, it is
and so the bands were doing double duty. They were outperforming, but you were also training them in, pastoral studies, and they were working the 800 number. And, I'm a product of that. And so, so to Roger and all the OG Sanctuary guys that were part of that, thank you for the time that you committed to that.
And then in the 90s, John, you came and worked with us at Diamante.
Well, that was in 2000. I relocated from Detroit, Michigan. And again, the timing of it, whenever we had to find a replacement, I've been bugging Kevin about coming on, and we did 2 shows with them up in Detroit in November of '99, and became good friends with one of the guys at Rugged Records. And he's like, "Man, you'd be great at this. You should come, come do this." I'm like, "Nah." And then after Kevin and the guys went home, my wife at the time, she was like, "You should ask how serious he was about it." And sure enough, Christmas Eve of '99, was on the phone with Jamie and Michael Betts.
Yeah.
And 3.5 weeks later, we had a U-Haul. We packed our stuff. I felt like the Beverly Hillbillies, packed our stuff and moved on up to Beverly Hills,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, January 2000 started my run in the music industry as far as label distribution and, the business end of it,
And the rest is history, as they say, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, folks, I want to thank you once again, John, for all that you do here. John's the one that makes us look good. Yeah, we don't look this good in real life. He makes us look good. And I appreciate that, John.
Well, one word of encouragement I'll give to everybody that might be at a place, a season in their life where they're like, "Okay, God, when is this coming?" Yeah. Be prepared, because that season will come and God will bring it big.
Yeah.
The valleys are deep, the mountain peaks are high, and it's difficult being in the mid stage of it, because it's like, "Okay, God, I'm ready. And your daddy knows you better than anybody. And so stay faithful in where you're at.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Mickey is here this morning. Blessed morning to you all. And great friends joining us. Speaking of great friends joining us, Roger Dale Martin is here with us today. Roger, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Pastor Bob. Good to see you too.
Roger is suffering in the sun at the in Florida. And Roger, you're awesome. So good to see you, my friend.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pastor Bob.
So we were just reminiscing that this is our 40th anniversary this year for Sanctuary. Roger, you've been with Sanctuary from the very beginning, 40 years now. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. You think of the number 40 years ago, and you go, "Man, that's like centuries ago." But when I think back to the things that happened, a lot of it seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it really is.
It's amazing.
And one of the things that happened was that we really forged some phenomenal friendships.
Oh, yeah.
People that have been lifelong friends. I know they have for you too. And I always think that of all the things that have happened during these 40 years, that's been one of the best for me. It's just the friendships and the great people. And Roger, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship all of these years.
Thank you.
We have some exciting news, and of course, this is part of it. But Roger, you wrote this book, and we've talked about it in the show before, but give us a little synopsis of the book, if you would.
Well,
all about.
Okay, the book is about my point of view of how Sanctuary started, and it's basically half about Sanctuary and half about my time with Vengeance. It was. And I got to tell you, when I wrote the book, my brain goes back to 40 years ago, and it's almost like mentally I become 27, 28 years old again. And when you read the book, you're like, I've had some reviews going, Roger's not quite so mature, but. To explain that, I really do go back. My brain goes back, and I remember those times, and some of the things that I say and some of the things that I stress are kind of funny, maybe a little bit immature, but that's life. Get over it.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Roger, you've got an exciting announcement to make about Vengeance as well.
Oh, yeah. with 40th anniversary, I felt like, and I know you and I both felt like that, the ultimate for me is to pay tribute to Vengeance. Vengeance was a huge part of Sanctuary. Sanctuary embraced us. So by the grace of God, all the original members have come back together, except for the vocalist, and we've been talking. We're all excited, and we're going to put together a fantastic show on Sunday, which is basically Sanctuary Day. We've had lots of meetings. We're looking at the set list. We're going through a lot of different things, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be a part of Vengeance at Immortal Fest and Sanctuary 40th reunion this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roger, it's been a long time since you guys have been on stage together. And of course, you formed Die Happy after that, but it's even been a long time since Die Happy did anything. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm so excited. When you posted this on Facebook, it blew up. Everybody was so excited, and ticket sales have reflected it. There are people that are coming to Immortal Fest that hadn't necessarily planned to come, but now they're Vengeance. Yeah, so that's
you're right, Pastor Bob. I think that Vengeance is going to bring a lot more people to the show.
Yeah,
and that's something for promoters to consider, because you got to have some more food. And I'm excited about it. I really am. And when I saw the comments and the love that people have for Vengeance after all these years, I mean, it really melted my heart.
Awesome. Yes.
And so we're looking for a packed house this year. Oh my gosh! Yes, it's incredible. It's one of my biggest posts was just like boom, all of a sudden, bam! I mean, it's all over the planet, and everybody sharing it. I mean, it's actually incredible, and so excited.
Yeah, we are really excited, and also you have another one of our sanctuarians from here in Tennessee. Luke Easter is going to do the vocals. Luke from Tourniquet is going to do the vocals for you guys.
Luke is a master of all trades when it comes to being a musician. He can do it all. He can sing like Robin Kyle. He can do operatic stuff. He can do guttural vocals. He can do death metal, and he can do it all. Now, a lot of people haven't seen that part of Luke. I mean, most people have seen Luke in action with Tourniquet. Yeah. But there's a whole lot more to him. He's multifaceted, and everybody in the band has embraced Luke. We've had meetings, and gosh, I'm telling you what, Luke is a vocalist that I tell you, he does not suffer from LSD, and all musicians know what I'm talking about. Yes. He is the most humble guy on the planet, and I'm so happy to have Luke and be fronting the band. Believe me, woo!
I know it's going to
be good.
And a few more surprises. So, folks, if you haven't planned to come to Immortal Fest and the Sanctuary 40th anniversary, please plan on it, because, gosh, going to be such a great time. We'll be announcing more as we go along, but the big announcement right now is Vengeance is playing. And Roger Dale, we have another one of my favorite people that's going to join us in a few minutes. Kevin Young from Disciple is here.
Heck yeah.
Yes, and I want you to stay with us the whole hour. I know Kevin has some questions for you as well. So, yeah. So get ready.
I'd love to be here. Believe me, I'm excited for that too.
Well, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with Kevin Young. Stay tuned. And we're back. We have a great show ahead, folks. Don't go anywhere. Kevin Young is with us today from Disciple, good old friend. Not that he's old, but we've been friends for a long time. And Kevin, so great to have you on the show today. Bless you, my friend.
Unmuted. Thank you. Good to see you.
So, Kevin, I when I think of Disciple, I remember how we first met very well.
Tell me. I've forgotten everything. I was thinking about Roger writing this book. I'd be like, I couldn't do it. I forgot it all.
That's me too. I know Roger remembered a lot of things I did.
I needed a Roger in my beginnings, but I don't know.
Thank you.
So,
how did we meet? I don't remember.
In the same week, Doug Van Pelt called me and he goes, "There's a band you need to hear." Doug Van Pelt had it still has Heaven's Metal Magazine. And Doug is one of the podcasters here at Sanctuary as well right now. But
I just had breakfast with him a few weeks ago, by the way, at his house.
Awesome.
We stopped by, so that was nice. Continue. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So he goes, "There's this new band that you're going to love."
New.
That you got to listen to them, and they're called Disciple. And I think at that point, you guys had, this is probably 1994. And at that point, you'd probably only been playing 2 years at that point, I think. But Doug called me to tell me, and it wasn't very many days after that I got invited to host an outdoor concert here in Nashville. And one of the bands on the roster was Disciple. And so the same week that Doug Van Pelt called me and said I needed to listen to Disciple was the same week that I actually got to meet you and to hear you. And I think we became fairly instant friends and
instant.
But a lot of time from then on. But
yeah. Well, I knew I loved you from the first moment. I mean, I had a high opinion of you before I met you because I was a big Heaven's Metal reader and subscribed and would see your picture all the time. And so you were a celebrity to me anyway. And so when I met you, I was a little starstruck for sure. And then we always joked back in the early days about your voice and how soothing it was and how, it was like, if we could just have Pastor Bob just read the Bible to us, if we had that on audio, that would be what we would listen to, every night going to sleep or something. Cause we just loved, and we would always like imitate you, and not in a mocking tone. It probably felt mocking, but it was definitely more of a compliment. It's just how soothing your voice is. We would do that to each other and laugh because, you just have the perfect voice for comfort. It's great.
It's funny. I did go on to actually narrate the Bible.
Oh,
and
we knew it. See, I was putting out there that something that someone already knew was a great idea, and we were just joking about it.
But the problem was, and I read this on one of the on Amazon on one of the comments that my voice puts people to sleep. So I'm not sure that it's a good thing that I'm reading the Bible.
No, I mean, I think there's a quality to that. I think there's an absolute quality to that. I mean, it's whenever you're soothed or comforted, I mean, that there's certain parts of your brain that kind of let their guard down, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so maybe receive the words a little differently. So I think there's something good about that, actually.
Yes. Well, dude, you've got friends from all over the world, and we have a lot of people joining us that are excited to be here. I was just noticing that our good friend Jonas from Sanctuary, Kenya, is here. And John, if we could put that slide back up, there he is. Good, and he had another one before this one, where he's talking about that he's been waiting. Before that one too, John. Jonas, there he is. He says, "Good evening from Kenya," because it's nighttime there. I've been looking forward to this podcast. Disciple has been one of my very early inspirations. I've traveled around Europe to see them live whenever they were around. Such a great band. So you really have had an impact on people's lives. We we you did Bob Fest one year, I remember. It was so good to have you in Sweden. Peter, who is in charge of Sanctuary Sweden, is actually here in the house with me right now visiting.
It was good to see his face.
Yeah, you said hello to him before we started. But some good memories of those days, and then, such great times that you've had all around the world. Kevin, I don't think I know anyone who is more of a road warrior than you are.
Really?
From the time that you started, you really haven't slowed down. At least it seems that way.
Yeah. I have a great wife. So
You do.
So to let us go do that. There's lots of great wives in our camp, actually. So to let us go do that. Yeah. That's all I've known since I guess a couple years after high school. We got going and we never looked back. We actually made a shirt during our This Might Sting a Little days. I think that was probably like 98, 99. I think we had this tour. It was April and May. The bands would always put their tour dates on the back of their T-shirts back then. I don't think anybody does that anymore, but maybe they do. But we had all the tour dates from those 2 months, and there was only 2 days in April and 1 day in May that we didn't play that year. We don't do anything like that anymore because, that was back in the early days where we were probably playing mostly for free and just showing up.
Yes.
But I don't even know. I think about that. My voice these days, would not be able to do that. I can do maybe 3 shows a week, 4 shows, just pushing it. But like every day for a month. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But you did. And
I did. Yeah.
Traveled, and you're still traveling a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that when you have that's all you don't really consider the how crazy that is, because that's all I know. And it's all I ever have known. And my kids have grown up, knowing that. And so, they do very well in either scenario. And I'd say this house actually runs a lot smoother when I'm not here. Come home and mess up everybody's routine. But happy to come home and mess up their routine. They're my favorite people in the world.
Absolutely. Kevin, I remember one night after one of your concerts, you and I rode around for a while in my car, and we just drove. And we drove for probably 3 hours just talking. And I remember, if I can just get a little personal for a minute.
Sure. I already know what you're going to say.
You were talking about what you were looking for in a wife.
Yeah.
And what you were envisioning, and what kind of a woman that you wanted to marry. And you did. You married the perfect woman. You married.
I'm going to tell her.
And
where is she right now? Oh, good. Oh, this compliment is amazing. Yeah, I tell her that, but hearing it come from you, maybe she'll believe it.
But I remember you saying that it would be difficult to find a wife that would understand your ministry. And
very, yeah. We found several wives, for the other guys, that they understand and they're very supportive, and
yes,
that's miraculous, really, honestly.
Awesome. So Terry Tripp is joining us, and Terry's family were one of the hosts on TBN, on the TBN network, on Praise the Lord show, especially the Tripp family, and very, very popular on TBN. They had a musical band together, and then Terry had his own show when he was just a young guy. He was the rocker on TBN.
Yeah.
Says Bob, 40 years ago, I'm humbled and honored to say I was at the first service at the ripe old age of 11.
Wow.
So he was at the very first sanctuary service, and I know for sure that he's a huge Disciple fan. So good to have you here, Terry. He's a great guy. We're still friends to this day.
That's so cool.
We're only 11 then. That's amazing. That's amazing. So Kevin, you have 2 or 3 children? I forget. 3. That's right. Yeah. And you are blessed to be a father and a husband. Tell us about your family.
Married 18 years. My oldest daughter's 16. I have another daughter that's 11 and a son that's 9. And yeah, they're so great. We just spent like the last week and a half snow days. It's snowed here. I moved to Kentucky. That's where my wife is from.
Yeah.
And there's a golf course near our house, and so we enjoyed some like ski slope level sledding the past week. You know, not the safest outing, but that's kind of what you get with me being your dad. You know, it's never safe. Nothing's safe around here. We live pretty dangerously, so it was fun.
So what kind of an adjustment has it been for you, being married with the family and traveling as well?
Yeah, well, again, that's the only way that it's ever been, so that really wasn't much of an adjustment for me. I'd say, you know, it's probably a question, you know, more for them and more for my wife, but I've heard her talk about it enough where I might be able to speak for her. I mean, she knows what she signed up for, and that doesn't make it easy. It just means that that, you know, she's really as part of the ministry as much as any of us, and you know, probably works harder than most of us, because she has a job, and, you know, most of the guys' wives do have, you know, jobs. And because that's part of the Christian rock world, you know, it's what does a Christian rock musician and a cheese pizza have in common? Neither of them can feed a family of 4. So we usually have to marry someone that helps us pay the bills.
Yes.
So she does, and then, you know, is managing the house and the kids and all that, and she's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but she's not really that much of a Disciple fan. I think that's kind of probably why it works, is that she's not starstruck by anyone really, and she likes me, so so we don't really talk about Disciple very much at the house,
which is good for you.
Yeah.
It's good to just go home and be home, huh?
Yeah, and I don't hang out or go anywhere. It sounds so boring, but like my kids, you know, I have become that dad. Like they're who I want to hang out with. They're who I want to be around. They are just so much fun, and I am a child. You know, I think that Roger can probably agree or attest to this. I mean, being in a band as an adult is kind of like being a grown-up child. And so like I am hanging out with people that are like on my level, you know, when I'm hanging out with my kids. It's like I'm their dad, but I'm also their friend, because I'm hanging out with people that are, you know, on my level. Like my son he just got an electric drum set, you know, for Christmas, and he's playing, you know, Beat Saber on his VR, and he's like, "Dad, can I have the Metallica package?" You know, and I'm like, so proud. I'm so proud that my 9-year-old is asking me for. He's like, "I don't want to play this game with all these pop songs. I want the Metallica package." And I'm like, "This is my child right here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's great. Know. You're raising him correctly, then. It just shows.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And my middle child is a singer. My oldest one is a singer as well. So, and I didn't push that or say that's just kind of who they really are deep down. And so it's kind of
awesome,
kind of cool.
Roger Dale, do you remember your first Disciple concert?
My first Disciple concert.
Yeah.
I think it was Immortal Fest. I think they might have been playing. You guys played in 2022.
Yes.
Or, I believe it
One of
was.
those.
Yeah. I think so. Good. So that was your first time, but you've been a Disciple fan for a few years. You know,
heck yeah.
I can't even handle that comment. I don't even know if I believe that. I can tell you this. I missed the Vengeance Boat, but Die Happy was like many hours of my life.
No kidding.
So many. If I were to try to put a number on it, I don't know that I could, but like, I have literally front to back, there was only 2 albums, right? If there was more than that, I missed it. But there was 2 Die Happy albums that I completely just burned to the ground. There's no way those CDs work anymore. Yeah, so many hours of Die Happy.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, that warms my heart. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Oh my gosh. It was amazing. So like just perfect for the time, so well done, and they were good songs. I mean, so like, you know, I think that somebody asked me the other day about, you know, like, it might have been Doug Van Pelt. He's like, how have you done it this long? And you know, it is that thing that record labels say to you. It's the songs.
Yeah.
It's the songs. Like, you can be good and you can play your instrument well and you can sing well, and you can just be very, very talented, but it's the songs. And man, when I think about Die Happy, yes, it was an all-star band, sure, but it was the songs, you know. Gosh, they were just so good.
Those songs came from deep within the heart, like Doug and Larry, and when you're in Vengeance, when you're in a hardcore band like that, you must write a certain way. As musicians, those guys, it was a chance to express themselves and express a different form of music that was inside of them. And so when you say that you really love the songs, that's completely awesome. I love that. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say you had a heavy influence on my life, on my writing, and definitely the way that I wrote songs at that time. I'd say Die Happy and bands like Precious Death.
Yeah.
Those bands of that time were a massive influence on me.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
White Cross and Petra and Stryper were the influences of just a few years before, but Die Happy and Precious Death were those 90s influences that I was.
That was a whole new thing.
It's a whole new thing, and it was so perfect. You know, very beautiful.
Death is putting together new material right now too. So.
Who is?
Precious Death.
Oh, don't play with me like that. I can't.
Yeah, there. In fact, the singer, Chris Neiswanger, was just here not long ago. He has a family of, I think he has 7 or 8 children.
I saw that. I saw that.
He's a pastor. Yeah.
One of the songs. It's interesting, Kevin. You said that the music was really current.
Yeah.
We had one song that people thought they were ripped off Metallica, Inner Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's like, no, you know, the album came out before, you know, like 6 weeks before theirs, and so it was current, and it was just right on the money, and you know, timing is everything.
Yes.
And so when you said that, it really brought that up, and we had to just stand our ground and go, no, that's our song, and we didn't rip anybody off.
Yeah.
You know.
I had a similar experience happen like that. In 2006, we had a song called Game On come out. That was a very just simple drop D and you know, whatever. And we were sitting in the Transformers movie, all of us together, and this scene happens. This really amazing action scene, and the Used song, I think it's called Pretty Handsome Awkward, comes out, and it's like, and I'm like, I'm like, oh no, our album had been out for like 2 months at that point already, and this opening day of Transformers, and we hear this song, and we're like, people are going to think, that we ripped them off. We did it. I swear, we wrote this song 1.5 years ago, like whatever. So I had a very, very, very similar experience. Maybe it's just something, musicians in the water of the times, they're just figuring out things at the same time. I don't know, but
yes, absolutely.
It's very nerve wracking when that happens, isn't it, Roger? You're like, we came up with it on our own,
I know. We it's very important to be original and to express what's inside of us rather than trying to copy someone else.
Sure.
One of the things that people did not like about some Christian metal was like, oh, you're just a copy you're an answer to some secular band,
Yeah. And you were around in a time before me where, like when you go to a Christian bookstore and they'd have those little Excel sheets that said sounds like, and so you had all that. I only got to experience that for just a second, and I remember the Sounds Like Disciple. I mean, like Die Happy, I would say what sounds like Soundgarden and Metallica. Was that probably the ones that people would say Die Happy was?
Yeah,
which are two bands that actually don't sound like each other. So you fused something really beautiful, and ours was oh gosh, so funny. Ours was Sounds Like White Snake and Rage Against the Machine.
Oh gosh!
Whoa!
Like
not even close.
No. So somebody who's a White Snake fan picks up a Disciple album, they were going to be like, no. Or somebody who picks up a Rage, or that's a Rage fan picks up a Disciple album, they were like, not hardly. So I guess that was a compliment in a way of like, sounds like, these bands that we really didn't sound like.
Well, one of the reasons for the success of Vengeance was that we did not sound like the other thrash bands out there, because all of us were really blues based. We were into 70s blues rock. I mean, Johnny Winter, and that was our roots. And then when we were studying thrash metal, we put, I mean, it came from within, and the blues element showed up on the Human Sacrifice album, and Larry Farkas leads were completely what you call pentatonic, or with the flat fifth, and that's timing also, because a lot of the thrash bands sounded exactly the same at the time, and so that set us apart. We had a blues influence, which was kind of baffling to some people, but we were not a clone, and people respected us for that.
Well, I'm very excited. Like I said, I missed the Vengeance train, so I'm going to have to go back and familiarize myself with that. But Luke Easter is a friend of mine, and so knowing that he's filling in for your Vengeance, I guess you would call it reunion. I'm not really sure, but knowing that he's doing that has got me really excited, and so I know that's probably a lot of fun for you as well to go back and play those old songs.
Oh man, Kevin. Right now, I'm revisiting and I'm rehearsing for the show, and I get more and more excited. I never get tired of those songs, believe it or not. A lot of times when you go on tour and you're playing them over and over, you're like, oh, I'm sick of this song. I never did get sick of the songs. For one, it was always a challenge for me.
Yeah.
To physically pull it off. And
right,
and so and just the feeling, all of a sudden I'm feeling 30 years old again when I'm playing these tunes. I'm going, yeah. So it is exciting, and oh man, I really look forward to it.
That's cool.
Yes, that's awesome. So you guys, it's good to go back and reminisce on all those years, and what a legacy both of you have had, in Christian music, and just being a
That's crazy to say. To hear you guys say something like that is crazy.
But,
I still feel 25 and probably still have the same mentality I had when I was 25. So to hear you say that's crazy.
Yeah, but for you, it's been 33 years since you guys started.
Yeah,
33 years. That's a long time.
Yeah,
and in those 3 decades, you've done some amazing things. I just think, at the end of our lives, to be able to look back and say, if we were only able to lead one person to Jesus Christ, that would be awesome. But to look back and say, I I ran the race, I finished well. I'm not perfect, but Jesus Christ continues to work in me and through me, and there is no greater life than that, is there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best. So, when you look back at the old days, Kevin, and you look back at the origins of disciples, did you have any idea that things would go this far? That 33 years later, that you'd still be playing?
Yes, I did actually. So, and I think that is probably why that we hung around was I almost like just like stubborn vision and just like and the guys have kind of adopted a lot of my stubbornness. Like the bus will break down in Idaho, and I remember our engine blew up, and it was like we're borrowing somebody else's bus. Within 24 hours, we're renting a U-Haul. Me and another guy are putting all the gear in a U-Haul, and we're heading to the show. Like we're going to the show. We had this happen just a few weeks ago in December, where we had like a wheel on the bus, like crack or whatever, and nobody would fix it, and there had like tow trucks coming out, and we're like, hey, all you need to do is just put the back wheel on the front, and we'll be good. We'll limp home. Some bolts were out of the wheel or whatever. And they're like, we can't touch that. The liability if we touch that. I was like, all right, I just need to we were in Wisconsin. I was like, I just need to find a good old boy in Wisconsin who does not care about liability right now, because we have a show to get to. And, that's just that stubborn mentality. And, I grew up in and don't judge me too harshly, whoever's watching this. I didn't have any choice of who my parents were, but I grew up in a home where people would, hear from the Lord and give, prophecies and things like that. And I remember, being 11 or 12 years old, someone called me to the front of the stage, and I was playing baseball at the time. And they told me that, you're going to have a music ministry and go all around the world. And
wow.
I was like, didn't hear that at all. I was like, that was weird. These people are crazy. But it's true. And, when some of the guys quit, left, this thing, that thing. I remember specifically praying on the back of the bus. And I don't know if you get angry at God and yell at him and cuss at him, like I have disrespectfully done in some of my real moments. But that was one of them. It was like the guys are quitting the band, and I just got married, and I'm reading Galatians 1, and Paul's like convinced. He's like, I've been called to this. And I'm like yelling at God. I'm like, yeah, Paul suffered, but at least he knew what he was supposed to be doing. And, at least he knew, at least you told him what he was supposed to go do. And like, yeah, it was hard, but at least he knew, at least he had that, and I'm like yelling at God and mad at him. And I don't ever have these big moments of God speaking to me or burning bush moments, or I'm not super spiritual like that, like the upbringing that I was brought up in. I'm not really like that at all. But I remember very vividly God feeling like God spoke to me. I told you twice, don't ask me again.
Wow.
And so that was obviously this one time that this happened, and then this other time. And I immediately told my wife, I was like, I think God just told me that he's already told me what he wants me to do with my life, and to not ask him again. And she was like, all right, let's go. And so that was when the guys, first quit the band, and so it was literally just kind of like a stubborn vision from that day on. And here here we are. We're still going. So people always ask me, they're like, when are you going to stop this? And I'm like, I am afraid to ask that question and have been specifically instructed to not ask that question.
Yes.
So I have no idea how much longer. I guess, it's almost like asking me, when are you going to die? So
yeah, it is though. It is. And Kevin, it's interesting. The one thing that I tell bands more than anything is, when did God tell you to quit?
Yeah, right.
Didn't he give you a mission to go forward? So we have a few questions coming in, you guys, that we want to make sure that we answer. John, why don't we put the first question on there, and we'll give it to the guys as soon as he gets that done. Jonas is from Sanctuary in Kenya, by the way. Question for Kevin: what made you move into worship with honor and glory? Was it a calling from God, or did it grow out of your own desire for worship?
Actually, it's just a few things. I was a worship pastor for 9 years at my church, from like the time I was 18 to 27. And so I'd always loved worship, just absolutely loved it. And we'd seen a lot of our friends do worship albums, and then a couple of my heroes like Petra do worship albums. And it seemed to actually kind of boost and ruin their careers all at the same time. And so we have always been hesitant and wanted to do it, but didn't want to do it, if that makes sense. Because, bands like Petra, they would do a worship album and it literally blew their career up. But then what did the record label want them to do after that? Another worship album. So when they finally put out rock albums, they didn't do as well. Same thing happened with Third Day, I believe. What a great band. Oh my gosh, just incredible band. It did worship, and it did really, really well. And then and you never really heard a rock album from Third Day from that moment forward. And also my friends Cutlass, who I'm really close with, and just very successful worship stuff. And they almost, they don't regret it or anything like that. I think they love it and appreciate it, but they want to rock.
Sure.
That's what they want to do. And so we were very hesitant to do anything like that. And even the record label that we're on, Tooth and Nail, was like, if you do a worship album, please do it under Disciple. And we were like, no, absolutely not. We've seen it, kind of go the way it goes. And so we didn't. We started, it basically came from the guys who said, I was hanging on the back of the bus, like, what'd you do this weekend? They was like, oh, I play guitar for my church. I was like, oh, I sing at church. And he's like, oh, I play drums at church. I was like, wait a second. You're telling me that everybody here played music at their church this weekend? I was like, why are we not doing this together? And so we just talked about it. And
awesome.
And then we were going to call it Kevin Young Worship. But apparently this is my morning for talking about spiritual experiences. I don't have very many of them, but I'm talking about them this morning. But we were going to call it Kevin Young Worship, just because people usually worship guys go by their name or whatever. And I had this experience where I was praying. It was the beginning of 2020, when 2020 was still good. We didn't know 2020 was going to go the way it was. And I was praying for the year. God bless this. God bless this album. God bless the producer. God bless his songs. And I, again, just felt him say no. And I was like, what is that all about? Why is he telling me no? Why do I feel gross asking God to do this? And the moment I changed the prayer to, well, I don't even know if you want me to do this. Well, I don't want to do it if you don't want me to do it. Or if we do it, just pray that it's all for you, that if we're worshiping you, that the moment people come in the door, they're worshiping you. If they're listening to the albums, they're worshiping you, that you're glorified, that, whatever. And it was like, as soon as I started praying like that, he's like, now you've got it. If you're going to do a worship album, you have to do it from that perspective. Don't ask for a good song. Don't ask for a good album. Don't ask for a good producer. Don't ask for, if you're going to do a worship album, just ask that people see me and worship me. And I was like, just like, okay. I called the guys immediately. He's like, we can't call it Kevin Young worship. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, it can't be about us if we're worshiping. It can't be about me. It can't, whatever. And it was really cool. So we were like, well, what are we going to call it? It was like, I have no idea. But we came up with Honor and Glory.
Jonas, who is asking this question, they're in the middle of doing a project, a worship project right now. The band is called At the Mountain, and it's a heavy metal worship album. And so I know that's why he's asking you, and I think that was great advice. Jonas, that's great advice for you guys. So for Bob and Kevin.
Can you guys talk without me for just a second? Because
yes,
I couldn't find my computer charger this morning, and so I was running on battery, just thinking I was going to be able to get through this thing, and I need to go find a way to plug my computer up to finish this podcast. Just take me off here. I'll be back shortly, okay?
Absolutely.
I'll figure it out.
You bet. Roger Dale, it's you and I.
Woohoo! Okay.
He doesn't understand how much you and I can talk. We're both
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I love what he's saying about worship, Roger, because that's been a major thing. And Roger, you've played in the sanctuary worship a few times.
I played on the sanctuary worship team. In fact, Glenn Mancaruso, we all played on the worship team. I mean, back in the early days, 50% of sanctuary were musicians, and so we just rotated. Of course, we had a core band, Jim Laverty, and Sherry Mancaruso, and Glenn, and so we rotated in and out of there, and it was very important to us. And for a while in Nashville, I quit playing in bands, and I devoted myself to worship teams. And I tell people I played the Nashville church circuit, but I moved a few times, and I went to different churches, and then I played in several worship teams. And worship is, in fact, I'm on a local worship team right now. I play bass in a church called Club Zion. And for me personally, a worship team is very challenging. And the Christian musicians know what I'm talking about. But it's valuable. If you just read the Psalms, it says, to lead people into worship is a privilege.
Yes.
And so, and I'm very happy to be able to serve with my local church right now today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that the longevity of it too. We still have Glenn, your old drummer. Glenn and his wife Jerry are still on our worship team here.
Awesome.
They're in Nashville now, and they've been on the worship team. Glenn's son is the other drummer for the worship team.
Joey, yeah.
Yeah, and his wife, Glenn and Sherry's daughter-in-law, is one of the singers. Phenomenal metal voice. And then, of course, Jim Laverty and Steve Casto and James Kavanaugh. We've got a lot of the originals still here. There's something about longevity with worship that's really worth it, isn't it?
Now, Pastor Bob, is your worship team going to be playing the 40th anniversary this year?
Yes. Yeah, both of them will. We have one of the groups we call the worship team, and the other one is called the worship band. And the worship band is a lot more heavy metal, a lot harder. And then the worship team is some of the older folks. Your old singer is there, Steve Braun.
Awesome. Great.
Of course, Glenn and Sherry and some of the old folks from Sanctuary. I don't want to say the old folks and the young folks, but it's kind of the way it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so that's a cool part. And worship can be just about anything. And people say, well, we had some criticism last year for sanctuary worship band, that it was too heavy metal. And this is coming from a heavy metal crowd, that there's too much heavy metal there. And then other people really loved it. So, within our own crowd, there's a little bit of criticism, but music has always been from the heart. And I love that our crowd loves to worship God with heavier music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you remember, Pastor Bob, back in the old days of Sanctuary, we had the heavy music in the front.
Yes.
We had a celebration, and then we would change gears, mellow out, and we called that part worship.
And we still,
Pastor Bob, we were all very young at the time, and we needed to get our yah-yahs out in the beginning, and you recognized that, and it was a winning formula.
That was a good part, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Kevin, you're back with us.
I think so.
Good. Well, thank you for doing that.
You hear me okay?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought for sure I was going to have enough, but I started to run out.
It's okay. So let's go back to that last question, if we could.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about Bob's question here. Bob Adams, you just played at his church. He said Kevin, along with Honor and Glory, just played at a Christmas concert at Radiant Fellowship.
Hi, Bob.
Waipaca, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, as you
that was the show that we were trying to get to.
Yeah.
That we needed a good old boy from Wisconsin to take care of us.
And he's the guy. And Bob also is one of the sanctuary pastors as well. So
very cool.
We appreciate him. So the question that Jonas has is, there have been many music festivals for Christian bands, but you think the time is right to actually do an intense worship festival with less focus on songs about God and our lives and more focus on direct worship of Him, a praise from us to Him. I see more and more bands going in that direction. Maybe there will be enough bands to put something together. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? What do you think, Kevin?
Oh, yeah. I mean, isn't that kind of how it all gets started? I mean, isn't that these kinds of ideas that are new? Isn't that how we all started everything that we've done here? I mean, Sanctuary, just somebody had this idea to do something different, so it's kind of how it all starts.
Well, I think that would be awesome. And, just here at Sanctuary, we've got so many worship projects going on. There's one in Holland, of course, this one in Kenya, Denmark.
Yeah.
Our own worship stuff here. And then the guys from Fear Not attend Sanctuary here also, and they're putting together something like that too. I think there's a real move towards heavy worship. It's really a great idea. So when we get this all together, are you guys ready to play?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're doing worship this weekend. So I know Roger is down there suffering for Jesus in Florida. And I will be leaving tomorrow to play in Jacksonville on Friday night, and then Orange Park on Saturday. We'll be doing a Disciple on Friday, and then Honor and Glory as our worship band will be on Saturday, and then in Pensacola, Florida on Sunday. So I am also ready to go suffer for Jesus in the sunlight of Florida.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, because somebody's got to do it.
Somebody has to. Here I am. It's in me.
So Barry wants to know, Kevin, are you going to be able to get to Immortal Fest this year? Just as a fan, even though you're not playing. So are you not playing this year? I haven't looked.
I think Honor and Glory is playing this year, and not Disciple.
Awesome.
Actually. Mm-hmm.
Good.
But we are playing at that same venue, and I don't know if they've announced it yet. So I don't know if I'm supposed to announce it. I don't know the rules. So if anybody, just don't tell anybody, because I don't know. I sometimes with these kind of events, they kind of have some sneak announcements or surprise announcements.
Yeah, but you can announce it. It's okay.
Are you sure? Do you know the guy? You know the promoter very well? I don't want to make him mad. We might be playing a show in April, May, somewhere in there with a band whose name rhymes with deliverance. So we might be playing with a band like that as Disciple. So before Mortal Fest. So, but then we will come and show up for Mortal Fest as Honor and Glory as well. So
Kevin, it's so fun to see all the older bands getting back together too.
I was about to say, you're going to have to move to Ohio. All this action up there in Ohio now. You moved from California to Nashville because that's where the action was, right? And now
I think
it's like
probably, and maybe I'm letting the cat out of the bag too, but I think we're about to move Immortal Fest here to Nashville too. So, because Nashville is Music City, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but it's fun to watch. Jim Laverty from Barron Cross just asked me. He said, "Is it okay if Barron Cross practices in the storehouse, which is part of my property here?" And I love the fact that Barron Cross is going to do a concert coming up, and
I mean, have you actually ever said no to Jim though? I mean, how could you?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Have you actually ever said no to Jim Laverty? If he says, "Can I do something?"
And probably I should have a few times.
Oh.
Jim is actually in between houses. He sold his old house and he hasn't found the right house to move into. So Jim is actually living in his motorhome in my yard right now. So he's my neighbor.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have to come hang out with you and
Dude, that'd be awesome.
Get to see you both.
Do we have any other questions? Roger Dale, would you entertain the idea of doing a worship album? There you go.
I would love to do a worship album.
Didn't you sort of?
Previously, Nick and I did an instrumental album of old worship songs. It was called Roxology, and it was all instrumental. And like the Old Rugged Cross and some songs like that. And
Great.
I really enjoyed that. And a part of Reign of Glory was we wanted to expand upon that and bring vocals into it. But I think what we're talking about here and what Kevin's talking about, a worship album, that's very exciting, and it might be what we're called to do here in the future.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Well, I can say this about it, Bob, is that for us in Disciple, we've always been very ministry oriented, or I guess evangelistic would probably be the best word, that we really treat Disciple as like as what I thought and assumed the 80s bands were. I wasn't there for most of them. You were, so you can tell me if my assumption is correct. I viewed Christian metal as evangelists. Would you say that? It's like you said, metal missionaries? Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree to that, and of course I've been in Christian music,
longer, yeah.
So
you know all the pioneers.
Yeah, but Christian rock, I think, has always been very evangelistic.
Yes,
because it had to be.
Yes,
we survived during that time, and we had to have a purpose.
Yes,
wasn't
so. So we kind of carried that because those were the bands that I liked. I was very young, and so I came along in the late 80s and kind of caught the tail end of Petra and White Cross in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were a very evangelistic and I think Roger could also attest to this. In the 90s, that almost became taboo to be that way. It was almost had a very not cool quality to be so evangelistic. It was almost like it was like let's figure out let's be a little more clever about or whatever. And I was like, nah, nope, And so I felt like very much like an outcast being that way, but kind of again that stubborn vision just stuck with it, and I think it really serviced well being stubborn with that. And so that being said, Disciple, we really take that very serious, that evangelistic side of the music.
Yes.
But the performance side and putting on a show, we also take very seriously. We were, yeah, it's all about the songs like we talked about earlier. Well, we were good performers way before we ever wrote good songs. It took us, we just naturally knew how to perform. It took us like 4 or 5 albums before we ever wrote good songs. But you know, like that was always part of it. But to talk about worship, my guys, when we finish a worship set, we don't do any of those things. We're not evangelistic. We're not performing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're not any of those things. And so it's literally like a completely foreign approach to walking on stage and doing what we've always done. We're walking up and we're almost forgetting that anyone is in front of us and just begin worshiping God ourselves. And therefore you're kind of leading other people in worship by doing that. And we'll walk off stage with these huge smiles on our face. And every time we do it, you know, the guys are just looking at each other and they're going, oh, that was so good. And we're not talking about ourselves. We're just talking about, we just spent an hour worshiping the Lord and it was so refreshing. It felt so, awesome. So good, you know? And, yeah, it's just a completely different mode and mechanism of doing what we do, you know, because disciple, it's like we're stretching, you know, like, you know, whatever, getting ready to go work out after this podcast because you just got to stay in shape to do all that. But worship is not that. We're not moving. We're not jumping. We're not performing. We're just worshiping. So it's really great.
I love that. Well, and I love that so many people are doing projects right now. I really feel like, and this has been my takeaway from 2024, is that God really wants us to lead with worship. I'm excited that that's happening everywhere. That is the one thing that's dropped, and it does people in worship. Well, you guys, we are out of appreciate both of you being with us today.
Thank you.
Roger's been here before. Kevin, will you come back again and we'll do some more talking?
Never. I don't want to ever talk to you again.
That's what he always says. I'm just kidding.
You're I love you so much. You're one of my favorite people in the world. And I usually only say that about my family. And so I really do love you so much. So of course, whatever you need.
And I feel the same way. Absolutely. Well, we've got Disciple with Deciphered Down on the screen here.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. So the tour, do you want to talk about, you're going to be in Florida this next week, you said, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the tour, is it a U.S. tour, or what exactly do you have ahead?
It is. You know, I'll tell you. We had a song come out on our last album called "Resurrecting Reasons." It's probably one of my favorite Disciple songs that we've ever written, and it really came out of a place of a very dark place for me that I you know, found myself in, and you know, wrote this song out of that pain. Is one of those where I sent a voice memo to the guys of just me and a guitar, and the song actually, you know, we'll go through 12 versions of a song just trying to get it ready for the album, and this song actually sounds exactly like the voice memo what I've sent to the guys, and so it's a very special song, and we really like it a lot. And we had the idea to invite TJ from Deciphered Down to feature on it, to do like a new version of it to come out. And so the original version is just me, you know, but he was like, yeah, we'd love that. And he is one of those guys that is just, he is such a good singer, you know, and he took that song to a level that I just couldn't. And I loved it. I loved it before, but now when people hear this song with TJ singing, so we're kind of like doing it together. I'll like sing a verse and he sings a verse and kind of back and forth.
Cool.
it's incredible. And so I was like, TJ, let's do a tour together and let's sing this song together. And he was like, all right, let's go. So,
oh, that's great.
So that's what we're doing. So I'm really excited for people to hear this new song. I think it's going to mean a lot to people.
That is awesome. Well, if we can put the URL for more information on the screen, John, people can go here and find out exactly where you're playing and what's going on with Disciple. If Disciple is coming anywhere near you, folks, make sure that you go and take in a Disciple show in person. On the web, it's disciplerocks.com.
And all of our social media is the same, just Disciple Rocks as well.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you once again.
You're welcome. Kevin, it's wonderful to meet you this morning.
Yeah, you too, man. And honestly, all of my vengeance questions that I had for you, I was like, oh, he wrote a book. So I had all these questions. And I was like, I'll just read the book. So
go. And you'll enjoy it. Roger is a very unique author. It's fun to read. You'll enjoy it. It's a good book.
I'm very jealous. People talk to me about that all the time, and I'm like,
come on.
It's a song as far as it's going to go with me. That's the art. Me writing a book, it would be about 3 pages long, and that'd be about it. So well done on that, man. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Did a great job. Well, folks, thank you once again for joining me today. It's been a great time with Kevin and with Roger. Appreciate them joining me. It's been a great having you here with me too. Appreciate all of you that have joined in today live and those that will watch later. And there are usually thousands of you that tune in. Thank you for being part of this ministry, part of Sanctuary, part of what we've got going here. And but we're mostly excited about Jesus Christ and what he can do to change our lives. Folks, if you've never had a personal experience with Jesus, make this the day that you do. The Bible says, to those who receive him, to those who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That's for you. It's for me. And our lives are transformed at that point when we ask for forgiveness of our sins, ask Jesus to come in, things change. So, folks, again, thank you. And don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.